Milepost 85 near fatal crash. A new engineer or trainman hired onto the railroad takes at least 2 years to have a good, safe understanding of the various parts of train operations. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but not many. If they are toxic, as I was during my first 3 years, they will never live up to their potential and will be at risk to themselves and others. When I hired on, there were 4 and 5 person crews on all trains and yard jobs. To expect the whole crew to be clean and sober was wishful thinking. The older guys liked booze, younger guys had pot, speed, and God knows what else. I worked on crews where everybody was some combination of drunk or stoned. The common goal of many railroad employees, not all, but to many railroad employees, was to maintain a nice buzz and earn a good living while doing it. If you could walk without a stagger and talk without slurring your words, you were left alone. Even if you slurred or staggered, your fellow employees would hide you from the higher-ups and do your share of the work. Most of those fun times and not so fun times came to a crashing halt in 1987 after the horrific Chase, Maryland accident that I will cover later in this book. Sometime in 1978, before my bottom, I was called off one of the Burlington Northern Railroad Stacy Street Switchman Section Board in Seattle to work a brakeman's job to Portland, Oregon. My locomotive engineer, a man from Skykomish, Washington, was one of the few men on the railroad who made me look like an angel. It was daylight and we were southbound on Main Track 1, just past Fader, Washington, on a long freight train. I was the head brakeman riding on the fireman's side in the locomotive with Mr. Skykomish. On the adjacent track, left Main Track 2, we could see the red marker in the distance of the caboose of another train heading south, the same direction as us. Mr. Skykomish buried the throttle on notch 8 as we caught up to the caboose on Main 2. He got on the radio and contacted the train dispatcher, requesting to be lined up at junction milepost 85 in 5 or 6 minutes, southbound on Main Track 1. The dispatcher called the train next to us and asked if they were making track speed as well as their location. Charlie, the engineer on the other train, answered back, informing the dispatcher that he was at track speed and at milepost 80. Mr. Sky got back onto the radio and told the dispatcher that we would reach milepost 85 first. We were passing them now, and our head end started to overtake theirs. I could see total fear in Charlie's eyes just 10 feet away. But Mr. Sky had an unhinged look of pure madness on his face. Sky again picked up the radio handset and shouted to the dispatcher that we would arrive first, but the dispatcher did not answer. We passed them all right, but we were now barreling down on a red signal a mere 3/4 of a mile away. I should have pulled the emergency brake valve right then, but as soon as I began to shout in horror, Sky dynamited the train, the brakes locking our wheels and sending us sliding to a stop. We finally ran out of momentum just 100 feet short of the red signal. On the other side of the junction on Main Track 1 sat a train facing us. Charlie rode by on his train on Main Track 2 to Main Track 2 southbound. When they cleared, the train on Main Track 1 ahead of us crossed over Main Track 1 to Main Track 2 northbound through the junction. Then it was our turn to proceed southbound. Not long after that, on a different day, a rock slide hit Charlie's train near Ridgefield, Washington, derailing several cars behind the locomotive and rupturing a large tank of poisonous anhydrous ammonia. Sadly, the fumes killed Charlie and the lady brakeman working with him. They were both very good people who didn't deserve their fate. Mr. Sky, on the other hand, went on to crash his train into another near Everett, Washington, a few months later, luckily with no serious injuries. I crossed paths with Mr. Sky at the Monroe Alcohol Treatment Center a short time later.